So I thought I'd do a little video on different types of garden edging. I guess you could call them soil retainers. Could be a nice way of calling them, but basically they're all doing the same type of job, but there are different things you can use. Now in this case I'm using a bit of scaffold board, and a lot of people are fearful in using this because they think it's going to rot as they put it in, but that's not the case, because it lasts quite a long time even when it's in the soil. That's probably going to go for a good 5 to 10 years in there, retaining that soil. And if you actually treat it before you put it in on the back end of it, it'll last even longer. Now I also use it at the back of that. So as this developed, I had to find a way of keeping the soil from falling into the pergola area, and I did it again with a longer scaffold board. That was a brand new one, but it's been treated and it should last quite a long time. So as you can see, it's quite a nice way of retaining things and keeping things back. You don't have to spend a fortune on things. These are easy to pick up. You can find them all over the place, reclamation yards. You can even buy them brand new from the suppliers, and they are around. Or you can go to a builder's merchant who also sell these things. And it's a really quick and cost-effective way of holding back a border, such as this one. So that's just a simple scaffold board doing a simple job. So another retainer I use a lot in this garden up at Grassy Bottom is these. These are just telegraph poles that are no longer required, and I buy these when I see them. If I see some really cheaply, I'll just buy them because they come in so handy as this, and it's retaining the soil and keeping that border into order, and it's also sort of really it's defining the border in this case. And it also runs down this path, so it's an actual, almost a runway, I guess, down here. But that's another absolutely fantastic way of doing it, and a cheap way of doing it, because you can pick these things up at, again, reclamation yards, or look online, and you tend to find that people are selling these things. And they are heavy. Some can be really heavy, and then some can be really light. But they're worth having as a retainer, as a soil retainer. And I like using these a lot, as you can see on this section here. Now, going back to retainers again, this here was a built-up area. Now, originally it sloped quite a lot, but I wanted to retain the soil and make it into a seating area, which I've done. And to achieve that, what I've done is I've used a modern version of railway sleepers. And I've put them in there, and then I've backed the whole section with some more chalk, because we've got a lot of chalk here, so I padded it at the back of this inside here before this gravel went in, and then that helped to retain it again, and then I backfilled it with all this, and it's really nice, because what I did as well, I wanted to give it a little bit more character. So what I did was I put these, what I call fins, against them, and they help to retain the actual wood at the back as well, keeps it in its place. But they also look very, very decorative, and they just change something that's just basic as that piece of wood into something a little bit more nice. So that makes a nice seating area, although there's no seats in there at the minute. And if we go round to the other side, you get a better view of that. As here, there you go. So that holds it back really, really nicely. So that's another way of retaining soil, or in this case, the gravel for the seating area. Now, sometimes when building work gets done, you use, God, I forget the name of these things now. They're a lintel. It's a lintel. So you sit these above a doorway, and sometimes lintels are no good. And this, we was working on a cottage recently, and we took this out, and it was discarded, thrown away, and it was about to be put in the skip. But I decided, no, I've got a use for that. And I've used it here to retain this grass before you drop into the path. So something that would have been thrown away has now got a good purpose and a second purpose. And that's it. And it's just a simple lintel that goes above a door. And if you're passing a skip, just have a look inside, see if there's anything in there that you can use. I do it all the time. I'm a right skip rat. I just enjoy it. You never know what you're going to find in these skips. So that's another good way of retaining something. Now in this area here, this is the path that goes behind the shack. As you can see, there's a shack and this is a path that goes around it. So what I've done to retain the soil here is I've simply put these sandstones in. And these sandstones again were reclaimed. They were dug up somewhere out of the soil. They were once an old cottage and I decided that I had a better use for them than going into landfill or a skip. So I've used them there. Now next to that, because I've run out of them, I've put this. This is just a branch, a big branch off of a tree that was being cut down. And instead of throwing it away or burning it, I decided I would use it there. So I've put it against there and it looks really effective, I think. It looks even more effective if you do it in this sort of situation. So this is a bark path up here. And it looks even more effective if you can do that with it and you put it as an edging and it just defines the path. That's all it does, just defines the path. And it's not doing anything really apart from defining. It's not holding soil back. It can if I wish to back soil up against it like I've done here, but this is turf, so I could sit turf against it and eventually it would form a solid mass behind it. But for now, it's just defining that edging. So that's another type of thing you can use, and you can pick this up. Well, you can just speak to someone who's chopping a tree down and ask them if you can have them. And if the worst comes to the worst, if you get cold, you can cut it up, can't you? Put it on your fire or on your log burner. So you've got kind of a double use of that. So that's good. Now this here, this is another retainer. Now I didn't put this in, but this is a concrete. I think they formed this actually in situ. I will dig this up at some point to see just how far it goes, but I think it would have been an original path that ran down the side of it. I've left it there because it is retaining that section there, so I'm not going to take that out. It's pointless. It's a pointless exercise because it's doing just what I would have bought something else in to do. So it's, yeah, it looks like it's been formed there actually on site, in situ. So that's another thing to use as a retainer. So this is by far one of my favourite ways of retaining soil, and I've done just that here. And this is roof slate. This is discarded roof slates, and we had an extension built and some of the old tiles came off and we've used them for this. I've put them against this edging. It stopped all the soil coming over, as you can see. But when you do this kind of thing, you need to put one behind, like so, and then in front of it you would put two, because that would then give it a stronger feel. So you can see the joint there, and then the other one behind it goes all the way there, and that gives it strength. And that is retaining quite a lot of soil really there, but it looks really effective. And that is by far my favourite way of retaining soil. So there you go, just a few little pointers on retainers. How to hold the soil back or how to divide a section. Simple, easy and fairly cheap. Don't be fooled into thinking that you need to spend a lot of money, as the previous owner of this property would have done, to build this wall. Fantastic though it is, that would have been quite expensive, but it's done the job. And to be quite honest with you, it's probably the best way to do it. Prior to this, they used 4x 2-foot slabs, concrete slabs, and they retained all the soil. I've seen old pictures of this section here, and they retained it retained soil. So that's something I would set about doing. Not myself, I'd have it built if I had to, but that would cost a lot of money. And you know, times are hard at the minute, and we need to think of more clever ways of retaining things. So don't feel for 1 minute that you've got to spend a lot of money to retain things, to retain the soil back. In this case, I've dug out the border deeper than it really needed to be, but it's self-retaining there because it is a pathway onto the decking, onto the boardwalk, and then onto the decking. It's just holding itself. Absolutely no money needed at all for that one, and it's doing just as an effective a trick and doing the job well at retaining. So we'll go back to where we started. Back to this. Simple, Simplicity at its best. A retainer, not costing a fortune. Don't spend a fortune. Don't be fooled into thinking you need to spend a fortune either. You don't. Just think of clever ways of doing it, and there is lots and lots of different things that you can use to do this. Thanks for looking. Talk to you on the next one. Ta-da.